Hey everybody, I just got done with a great conversation on Table Breakers, and I wasn't quite full of just talking about things that we think are interesting. So I decided to do this one with Omen now, and I invited a few other people just to see if they show up. The title is it just me or is the world getting weirder? And just this past week, I just went I will go on the political side. That's fine. As long as we keep it fair, you know, to least not, I don't want to say fair, but honest.
I'm gonna bring this up because I don't think the world's getting weirder. I think we're just becoming more aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, my God, there's so much stuff that's going on, and I try to be somewhat open minded about the world around us. People have different thought processing. It depends on how you're raised and your religion you're brought into. But there's still, even in the Catholic point of view, there's still a lot of weird fucking people out there in the church I belong to. I'm not going to be bouncing off. I'm not going to be teleporting anybody's religion unless you're Mormon. Then you get what you get. That's not fair. I should make jokes like that.
You know what's funny is I find the Mormons some of the nicest, kindest people around.
No, so do I.
You know,
I just think the religion. I just thought their faith idealism is just kind of weird to me. But
there's a few things I question about how it got started. So you dig up these mysterious tablets that no one else finds, and then they disappeared. You come out of your anyway. I'm not
or
going.
you go on a mountain and God speaks to you, and you're written them on, these 10 Commandments. By the way, there's a good chance we'll be covering 10 Commandments on the Sunday Review Show this coming April because it is the holiday season of that thought processing. I might throw a curveball in there, like Jesus Christ Superstar. I don't know what movie I'm going to pick quite yet, but if we're going to go with that theme, I'm going to have a little bit of fun. It might be an Easter Bunny movie. I don't quite know yet. There's no real dark Easter Bunny movies out there like there is with Santa Claus. Is there?
What was what was it? Donnie Darko.
That he wasn't the Easter Bunny. He dressed up as the Easter Bunny, but I get where you're going with that. I that might be so.
You
I
know
don't.
what? I don't. You know what? Everyone says that. Oh, the world's getting dumber. You know what? You know what the people our age did? You know, 30 years ago, they called us stupid kids who didn't know anything. It's not that the world's getting dumber. You're just getting older. That's now that said is I dealt with enough crazies. The problem is everyone looks at it and like, well, I've always it reminds me of my father years ago. Like Millie, this was almost 30 years ago. But I remember my father going over and he was like, "You need to act your age, son." I said, "What? Go out and drink and party?" And he's like, "No, that's not what I mean." Dad, you think that you were 45 your entire life. I know for a fact that wasn't true.
I talked to your parents. No, I get it.
I well, we had some things which I remember when I was a little kid when my father said, "Hey, son, let's go watch TV and then watch the one with the big boobs," which he will swear that never happened. Like, yeah, sure, Dad. I also remember when he gets mad because I always wear these T-shirts, whatever's in there. I remember he used to wear fun T-shirts, and then somehow they sucked his brain out and replaced him with a yuppie.
You
Yeah,
know, my clothing for a quick, on that subject. My clothing, what I used to wear, what I was comfortable in my early 20s, so what I'm wearing now is completely different birds. I was button down shirt, nice suit jacket, slacks, sometimes a tie, sometimes not. But there's a fashion train. Somebody else made this joke, but there's a fashion train. It depends on where you are in your life and when you get off of it. Mine was suit and tie. I thought there was no better look, and I still of that opinion. I think every man should own at least two good suits and X amount of shirts to go with them, because you got one suit that you work for, you wear for work or whatever. Then you got the other one for special occasions. It being
I don't
You know,
disagree with crafting gray there. I don't. I mean, there are some really dumb people out there. Don't get me wrong. But it used to be. I'm going to bring up one other thing. Sorry, I know that we're going into fashion.
no, that's fine.
But I only want to mention this one thing, which was yes. But in yesteryears, these people used to have the Darwin effect impact them much, much more than nowadays. Anyway, but back
No, that is incredible, man. I am of the generation. I think I'm of the generation. I might not, and I really hope that I'm not. But the Tide Pod challenge became a thing, and I'm like, have you read the ingredients that's in Tide Pod, and you want to put this in your, because the human body is a series of accidents that's bound to go wrong at some point, and we're introducing something that by no means that we should be ingesting, but we want to do it for click fame. And I'm like, that's so freaking asinine.
Well, we have to remember, years ago, what was it? Even when I was growing up as a kid, seatbelt laws were just coming into effect, drunken driving, but there was a lot of other things too. It's now everyone's like, oh my God, they fell off a trail. And I went, it was covered full of ice. Why are you hiking up there in the middle of winter? It's I don't want to. Anyway, sorry. I like fashion a little bit more because I have some things I say I want to get, which I haven't gotten yet.
Oh man, I used to have. There's a photo I'll just share with you at some point. But I'm at a dinner and it's at a country club because my aunt used to belong to a country club here locally to where I live, and I'm in a black pinstripe suit, black shirt, nice red tie. People jokingly say it's my mafia. I look like I belong to the mafia in that picture, but that was the style I liked.
I'm going to say as much as I actually like the 1930s style with men wearing their suits and the hats, and
Oh yeah,
and I like light gray suits. I had a gray suit that was almost like this color, was almost
yeah.
that light. I like that better than the dark suits. I look at black, I'm like, ugh. And then I was looking at buying, because sometimes I have a problem with my gout or tendonitis, was buying a nice cane.
Yeah.
And what I mean by a nice cane is we're talking about about a $400 or $500 cane, along with the ability to break someone's jaw with it. Not a cheap cane. I looked into it for the combat canes. I was like, that's pretty nice. And then
Yeah, no, I had it's been on a couple different websites over the years, but I had a military grade plastic, and it always killed me that it was plastic because there's no way I could afford the real thing, but a military grade poly whatever shillelagh.
Oh yeah.
And I mean that thing. Well, I mean, I was watching videos and they're busting cement blocks with it, ice, and all kinds of things. Hey, Bo, if you want, you could jump on in. You're always welcome.
But I mean,
yeah.
but I mean, people, and I like to have a nice hat, which I have never had. And then the other part is I like the long overcoats that are, well, I mean, I like a lot of this stuff. When I was younger, I used to have a light gray suit. I'd wear a white, shirt with a red tie. I still have the red ties. And then like to have a nice hat over myself. I like the kind of the G-man look, but I don't like the dark colors. I don't like bright, but I like a light gray, which stands out really nicely. And yeah, and I want a 3-piece, no 2-piece. Don't go half-ass here, man.
No, you need the vest. You need, French cut shirts with the. No, we need to go back as a culture. We need to listen. Before I say anything else, I like loose clothing now. I'm a bigger guy. I have a Thor shirt. I got Captain America shirt. I'm a whole lot more relaxed on the things I wear now. Not because I'm a bigger guy and bigger guys' clothes are a little bit more expensive than smaller guys. I got lazy. And that's the honest truth. I just got lazy in the clothes. I used to consider walking around in sweatpants as giving up on life pants.
That's probably true. I mean, I'm not, I hate saying this.
As I'm wearing them right now, but what you guys don't see is I'm kicking around in my apartment in a pair of slippers. I'm about ready to go crash after here in a little bit outfit, but no, man, pride. Men and women need to have pride in what they wear. And if your pride is you want to wear certain clothing, I'm not going to say that you're wrong. I'm just saying there's nothing better than a well-groomed suit for a guy or a woman. I've seen some very beautiful women wear some really well-cut suits or a dress, for the women. Hell, I made a joke earlier on Table Breakers. It's like, about wearing a kilt during the heat of the
Oh, I
summer.
heard. Well, what's funny is that much people talk about kilts. That was very true of Greeks. There's a lot of them. Whenever you start getting in the mountains aspect, you tend not to want some of that. But I've looked also at how people dress with kilts, and they have, well, I don't know what it's called, the shawl or whatever that goes around.
Yeah, well, it depends on if it is a one piece. It's if it's a great kilt, then I have a great kilt, and I tell you what, it is a pain in the ass to put together. Or one of my more modern day kilts, where it's just I throw a belt around it. I make sure everything's tucked in and everything. And off to go to wherever. And I find that with kilts, though, there's only two types of footwear that are suitable for kilts: boots being the first one, and fucking sandals. I don't know why, but it just works. I'm not
Well,
talking about the thong. I'm talking about good.
proper sandals,
Yeah,
like the Romans used to wear and things like that. Well, people forget about a lot of this stuff as you're looking at it, and you know, well, yeah, it is. But at a certain point, and I hate saying this, is I fully agree with the fact that you dress for where you want to be, and but I understand that. It's so
yeah.
funny.
Are
Um,
you- yeah.
yeah, well,
It's like
no, I mean,
it's like, ooh, maybe I should take that back.
I also like the fact that dress used to be functional, and now it's kind of I say this, but it just depends on where you are. I know that, what's my normal going out for work. Well, okay, I'll wear, steel toe shoes, a safety vest, a cowboy hard hat, and a couple of other things in there. But I'll also make sure there are items. When I was around with the military, some people just hated wearing the uniforms. Like, I kind of liked wearing the uniforms. I had plenty of pockets, whereas everyone else that wore.
Oh man, too many pockets drive me up the damn wall.
Well, I mean, they were just, not that you used all the pockets, but I liked having the pockets. But I used to do that. You know. Well, yeah. Well,
Please got involved when I was walking. Go
hey,
for it.
Bear G Rock. That's just because you need to go exercise some more. Once you get that body, they won't call the police as much.
I'm walking home for a bar, and I live like 2 blocks, 3 blocks. This is down Champaign era, and I'm wearing my kilt. I just got off of work. I got some drinks in me, and where I was living is maybe about 2 blocks away from the main strip. And I'm wearing a kilt. I am wearing a kilt. I'm wearing not so much a nice shirt, but I'm wearing a shirt. I'm comfortable, and I'm drunk. Oh God, am I drunk? And they stopped me. They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Walking home." And they're like, "Have you been drinking?" "Yes." "Are you wearing anything underneath that kilt?" I'm like, "You don't get to ask that question." And I'm drunk. I'm drunk, and so my smart ass is normally at 10. At this point, it's at 20. And I just being harassed by the cops for wearing a kilt was a new one for me. I mean, I get harassed, not so much harassed, but there's always that one person, and it's normally women. "Hey, are you wearing anything underneath that kilt?" And it's, you play it off. That's why, most people play it off. I had a guy being a dick one night, complete utter dick. Is like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, and you're wearing a kilt. What are you wearing under?" I'm like, "Your girlfriend's lipstick." And which I should not do. I was younger. Fuck that guy.
You know what? No, I'm sorry. If you're going to ask a stupid question, you deserve a stupid answer. I mean, there's
Right.
a point of. I mean, if I was asking, he said that, like, haha, okay, fine. But the other part is I like kilts. I like those things. But like most things, it's just don't flash me. That's all I'm asking. You know, it's
Normally a person's birthday suit.
you know.
Well, Depends on the weather. It depends on the weather.
Well, I was going to say that much is, the one time because we had to wear, we didn't have togas when I was in high school and we were doing Julius Caesar. So we had to wear, so some girls brought us their dresses that could act like togas. And I'll say this much. I'm not a huge fan of the upward breeze. So, so yes, but actually, so there's that. But I just
hold on. Hey Rick, I'm gonna put the link in the chat. You, Bo, Baron, whoever wants to jump on in. We'll have a conversation about is the world getting weirder, and
I think part of it really comes down to I'm not sure if the world's getting any weirder. I mean, look at the stuff that came out in the 70s and 80s.
I don't want to talk about the 70s.
You went around the 70s.
That's why I don't want to talk about it. I have no. Well, even the 80s. Oh my God, the whole punk era. Don't get me wrong. I love the Ramones. I love the Sex Pistols. I love good punk. But at the same time, the things that they were wearing made no fucking sense to me. I'm going to have a mohawk that's 3 feet tall, and I'm going to be wondered why, I'm being harassed by whoever. You kind of wearing a kilt, wearing whatever that's outside the norm. You kind of have it coming to a certain degree that people are going to be not exactly the most couth about it. And that sucks, but it is what it is.
I'm going to say this much. There are certain fashions I get kind of mad that we left behind. One is cloaks. I love cloaks. We just don't have them anymore. And the same thing with a good, nice fur cape. I feel that we've been cheated in some ways from this. I also think that men should carry swords, but that's just me.
Well, I can now. In the state of Illinois, I could walk around with my Highlander sword strapped to my back. Would I? No, because you're asking for problems. And it's my bows. My bows. I could walk around. I can't walk around with a gun, but I can walk around with a sword or a bow or a freaking flamethrower. That one's like, wait, I have to get a license not a license. You have to get a Floyd's card, at least here in Illinois, to have a gun.
I know,
but I don't need any kind of paperwork to walk around with a flame shooter. And I'm sure you'll get in the cops like, hey, where are you going? Where you plan? What your plans are? But there's no laws that I know of on the books saying I cannot do that.
No. That's well, I always laugh because I thought in Illinois the best thing to do if you're so worried about crime is to welcome people in with concealed carries, or because guess what? No one's robbing your store. it's one of those things. I mean, I laugh at it because we have a guy here locally, and he used to, whenever we'd have the concealed carry classes, he would welcome people in, and all he would say is, "Hey, look, I don't want people open carrying in my store, but if you conceal carry, you're more than welcome." And man, of course, he was like 2 blocks away from the police station, so the police would come in. I mean, his food was good, and it was cheap too. So.
There was a game shop down in Nashville area called the Game Room, and you can carry in Nashville.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a law to carry in some of these states, which is fine. Which whatever, it's fine. Just not city limits, like the Old West, whatever. But I'm playing Magic the Gathering around on a table with 4 other people, and we're all having a good time. And the guy moves just a little, and his gun that was in a holster falls out.
See, that's what aggravates me because everyone wants to go through it and like, look, snap it. That's to be fair, if anyone's seen the FBI guy who was dancing and it dropped out of his pants too, at a certain point, it's like, look, put a snap on it and just train yourself to pull it out.
Oh yeah. I mean, my argument was, back in my head, my argument was this: you're going into a game shop to play Magic the Gathering. You need to grab bring in certain things, your deck of cards, some dice, some money for a drink, or what. You don't need to. In the back of my head, I'm thinking, and maybe this is where I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but I was thinking you don't need to bring your gun into a game shop.
So I'm going to bring up a little bit different outlook for this, only for because I had this argument with someone, and they were talking about, well, this was carrying on colleges, which they allow in Texas, but the person was carrying, yep, yeah, there was that one too. But then the other part that came into it was, if someone said, well, just leave it in the bag. I said, well, first off, your bag can easily get stolen. And number two is, if the gun is physically on you, they have to attack you to get it. It's not like they just pull it. And so, would I rather them leave their pistol in the car where someone can break in and steal it, or would I rather them have it on their person? Because they don't just go to the game store all the time. And for me personally and people forget about this, is, well, they're going to do this. Well, first off, there's no evidence that concealed carries actually increase crime, because Florida and Texas have proven that. So wherever that comes in. And then number two is, if you're going to have it, and people forget about this, well, they're just going to shoot everything up. You understand the law still applies to you. If I pull a gun on you, that's considered aggravated assault unless it's self-defense. And even if I'm, quote, innocent, I'm still probably paying $50,000 to $100,000 to pay the lawyer off. And, because if you go to court, you're screwed. That's what people forget about. It's one thing to have it. And I think that's where people forget about those things, is you just can't, it still counts as aggravated assault. I pull a gun out on someone, boom, I'm going to go to jail. They may let me go, but I'm still going to go to jail. So, de-escalation is the way to go no matter what. You pull it out when you need it. And it's the same reason that I was joking about the cane. And I actually found out if a cane has a hook on it,
Yeah,
you can carry it on a plane. It's considered a medical device. They're not allowed to pull it away from you. And, that's one of those things of, you can still defend yourself if you have to do it. But, most of the time,
I'm all about people defending themselves completely. And I am someone, even me not being a gun guy, I do understand the argument. An armed society is a polite society. I do see the value in that thought processing. And I'm not going to go any further than that. There's a time and place for everything. And going into a game shop was, in my mind, just not the place.
Well, I understand that aspect. Again, for me on the whole thing is, if you're going to have a gun with you, I'd rather it be on your person than left where someone can take it. That's where I'm coming from. But it's just, my favorite was, and people like, oh, you're just going to do this. And again, this just comes from my perspective. When people are saying, well, for a gun, you're just looking for a fight. I said, oh, really? Do you have a fire extinguisher in your house? So by having a fire extinguisher, you expect to set your house on fire? And the answer is no. You have it just in case. And that's the point of, if you run the whole point is, if you're carrying, and you understand this, is it still counts as murder if you pull it out and shoot someone. And it's an act of defense. People, here's what I really love though, is, and this is when they had the concealed carry. Most people don't want to lose the concealed carry, so they'd be like, I'm going to avoid it. But yeah, part of me goes, it's better to keep it hidden just so people don't mess with you. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but if all of a sudden 4 or 5 guys come to you, the other part is, guns aren't cheap. A gun is, if you get a nice one, is probably $700 to $1,000. See, that's the other thing is, people like to see it. But at the end of the day, don't set yourself up so everyone identifies where you are. It's a lot, and I agree with you in this case, which is also, it does make some people nervous or uncomfortable. But I also think, what is it, the level 3 holsters? That's the other part. These people want to carry the fast, draw holsters. No. One is, if your gun drops, then you have to get it. That's the last thing I want. And the other part is you can train yourself mentally. Like I saw one, and admittedly, this is 30 years ago, so it's been around for a long time. They had the guy go over and he said, Okay. What happens is with the police officer not even resisting, they asked someone to take the gun off of him because, like, I think it's like 20% of all police officers are shot with their own pistols. Um, but well, if the police officer is shot, but the other part was he didn't even resist. It took the guy 90 seconds to take it off of him. Um, yeah, yeah.
I see. I went to Bass Pro Shop about a week ago to pick up some more arrow shafts for the sport I'm in, and I walked by the gun counter. I think some of the revolvers that they have are absolutely gorgeous, but you're spending money. I mean, hard cash on a pretty piece, and I'm like, in the back of my mind, at my juncture of life, I don't need it. I don't. I mean, I might need it someday, and I hope that day never comes. But I just don't. I can't justify it to myself. And like
Well,
I said before, I'm not a gun guy. I've always been, if I need to get physical, I'll get physical. If pulling a gun has never been on my mind. I wish I had a gun. No, it's like, okay, I'm gonna punch this guy. If he falls over, I'm gonna walk away. It's the next step
it,
over.
the only time I really felt like I really needed a weapon, and this is fine because I haven't been in Afghanistan, Iraq. I don't really feel like I need one. There were plenty around me, which is the other part is my job is to hide. If someone goes down, I will find a weapon somewhere around the ground. Anyway, but the other part is, and people forget about is, if you're out in the countryside, a pig comes over, there are times you need it. I felt kind of bad for my ex is, the rattlesnake attacked one of her dogs.
Oh
Or,
yeah.
you know, there was that aspect. There was a dog that attacked her chickens. So she didn't have a rifle. So she had to call the deputies to come out, you know, and the other part was, and I talked to this boy, what a jackass the guy was. He was part of the discredited crash group from Los Angeles, and I knew about the history on this. Anyway, they were having him train us, talk about training in it. But part of it really got me was it's like, well, no one really needs a gun and blah blah blah. He was I said, oh really? I said, where my son is right now with his mom. I said the police driving at 70 miles an hour take 15 minutes to get her. I said, there's no one coming. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, the problem is whenever I hear someone, I'll just, okay, fine, you go to jail. Congratulations, good job. That's the whole.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that. The problem that I have with it is when people treat guns like a toy, rather than as a, to me, if it's a means of self defense, and people forget about this. Look, if I can retreat, can no longer retreat. At that point, it's time to return fire. But everyone's acting like, oh, you're going to go for it. As I told one person, he said, what are you going to do? Think you're going to stop an active shooter? I'm like, no, but I'll tell you this much is number one is, he said, well, how would you know they are? I said, well, if they're running away from the people, then that's probably where the active shooter is, number one. Number two is, and people forget this other aspect, is if the police are coming in and you have a gun out, guess what? They're going to assume you're the shooter. So it's a defensive aspect more than anything else. You're not in a war zone. You don't have well-defined things. You hold yourself up in a room, and only at that point do you fight, or you try backing off if you can't retreat. But it's better to have a gun than not to have a gun. And I say this as my friend. You're probably not familiar with this, but 1992 Luby's, one of the worst shootings at the time. Like 35 people died. The guy.
I'm not aware of that one.
So, well, she was the guy drove his car into the Luby's, came out and started shooting, and he shot like 38 people, 35 or 38 people. And then the last person he shot was himself. The people count down these bullets. That's what gets me about it. When you're against a homicidal maniac, he's not going to stop until someone shoots him. And that's the other part is there is no reasoning. It's the whole part of you're trying to appeal to someone's better nature to an evil man. And like, no, it's too late at that point. But it's like, look, you can move back and then you hold it over, and then what's the average police response time? 5 to 7 minutes.
If you're lucky, and depends on your area.
I mean, there's things. Masad Ayub had all sorts of, if anyone reads about him, He had a lot of things. Again, it depends on where you are and what's going on.
As I said earlier, place and time.
Well, the other part is you understand if you shoot someone, you're still responsible for shooting them, even if it, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. You can't. Well, you don't know if they're crazy evil or not. The point is, if they're out to kill you, your assumption is this. That's why whenever I hear these feminists talk about things and they scream, "Oh, I don't have a gun." Here, lady, if you really are a feminist, then you'll be able to defend yourself, and the best way of defending yourself is a gun. Because I hate saying this, a 110-pound woman is generally not going to stop a 200-pound man that wants to kill her. That's just,
I have a date here coming up where the date will be taking place in the gun range. I mean, it wasn't my idea of a situation, but it's going to be a fun. I'm going to be positive about it and enjoy the experience of it. I shooting guns are fun. I get it. I really do. It's the excitement of it if it's in a range, or let's say your ex-wife farming and she has wild. She probably doesn't, but let's say wild hogs, random creatures that mean you harm, and you don't have a way to protect yourself. That makes no sense to me
well, the other part.
whatsoever.
Well, the other part is, of course, we always forget about these things. We take things for granted, but where she is, if an animal's foundering, how are you going to kill it? You going to slit its throat, or you going to just shoot it? Yeah, that's well, and this was Bo knows this, but that was in Texas. She went and she was the one that actually pushed the concealed carry. They didn't used to have that. Well, and that's true, and people forget about it. That's what There are times to do it, and that. But to me, if you're going to be carrying a weapon as a responsible adult, you should have plenty of training. And
100% agree. And this is weird coming from, like I said, I'm not a
sure,
gun guy. I know how to use them, but it's just not, not to be punny. It's just not my bang. It's not where I get my enjoyment out of. Now,
and
am I going to
I,
come down on somebody who loves to collect all the different guns and knows all the kinds of history about it? No, because that is his side passion, and everybody should have a side passion of some sort. I like playing characters who get to use a gun because there's no outside consequences for my RPG character to have a piece
now
whatsoever.
that my son doesn't like the rifles because they're too loud. Yeah, well, it depends on where you are. Well, and I'll say this much: is when I go to the local range, it's so funny because you'd act like, oh, they're really racist. I said, I've never seen that in my life. Whenever I go to the range, they're like, oh, cool, blah blah blah. I've actually gone out, which sounds funny. We'll shoot maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and then if it's just 2 or 3 of us, we'll all sit over and BS with the guy who brought out his rifle to sight. It's a community in that aspect, and that's fine. The problem that you have is young guys who, oh, I'm going to do this, blah blah. It's the same reason that I thought it was weird is when they did the testing with the kids, and they did this in Dallas. They had like 20 kids, and they put in a fake. They put in a fake pistol.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's great. But they put in a fake pistol, and guess what? The kids who had not grown up around guns, they're like, "Oh, look at this! It's cool." They were pointing it over at the other kids. The kids who had grown up around guns, they all went, and they didn't touch it, and they left it alone.
There is it's funny. It's not funny, but there's shows I've watched over the years, TV shows, and what was it? Perfect example. Now that I'm thinking about, was 1980s Police Academy when they're going down on the range for the gun testing. You had that one fat son of a bitch. I'm fat son of a bitch, so I get to say it. Who shoots his round, then swerves around, pointing the shotgun. And everybody hits the ground, except for the one guy in back who's a gun nut. He's like, he shot his round. He knew there's only one round in there, so he knew it was okay. I get that. Or was the other one? Do you ever watch the TV show Breaking Bad?
I
Not Breaking Bad.
didn't have, everyone said it was great, but I will say
Uh,
I have a story about the one shot. My father went hunting one time with a one shot shotgun, and then he was pointing it at his foot. After he'd shot it, like they went off to dinner or something like that, and he put up against the wall. And when he came back and he was pointing at his foot, he said, "You know what?" He moved about 6 inches and pulled the trigger. Someone had loaded it when he wasn't looking, and he almost blew his foot off. It's one of those things of, the problem that I have with it is, and this is what they should be teaching every kid. I don't care, is, always treat a gun as if it's loaded. Do not point it anywhere that you don't plan to destroy. It's not that's not a joke. People need to reinforce that aspect.
I really didn't mean for this conversation to be
I,
talking about guns, but it's fine. I really don't care.
Hey, we went from fashion to gun.
Well, some people think gun is a fashion thing, and I'm like, that's cool too. I guess I don't get it, but I don't have to get everything. I just have to be open minded enough to realize that different bags for different people.
Well, and see, that's what I find so stupid. Is because what happens is that when you make it mysterious, it's going. My son doesn't touch my guns, and he knows if all he has to do is ask during daytime, and we will go shoot. That's all he has to do. I have.
Right.
I mean, I have to make sure I haven't gone in a couple years, but I have a part of a gun club. You can go. It's basically from 8 a.m. till sunset every day. You can go 365/366 days a year. Yeah, it's the whole thing of whenever you're going through this. And I said, no, sit down and talk to the kid, and then remove all mystery from it. And then guess they're all fine with it. And it's like, all right, that's what I don't understand. Remove all mystery from it, and then let them know that they can go. And a lot of times the kids will go and some won't. Oh well, you know what? We were allowed to do that, but I never touched my father's pistols until I was in my later teens.
My grandpa had a couple rifles for hunting. And he taught me how to shoot them, how to clean them, and how to take care of them. I learned how to clean and be responsible with a handgun. It's not something that's foreign to me. I just
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that anyone.
right.
It's like for your daughter. My suggestion for her is, I don't know if she's done it. Take her to the range and pay for a class for her to shoot. That's it. You only have to do it once, but it reinforces it, and there's no mystery. They know how to handle it. They're neither terrified of it nor are they curious, because it's like, oh, okay, I know.
I might have to do that here in a couple of years. As of right now, she just
Well,
there's no guns in her life whatsoever.
well. The problem is we say that, but if they go over to a friend's house or something like that,
Right. Yeah, I get that. I do understand that concept. Unfortunately, my daughter's like me. It's just it she doesn't there's maybe like 5 or 6 people that she likes in the entire world, and I'm lucky enough to be one of them. And that was my train of thought when I was a kid. So
well, no, I understand that, but my whole point is that it's always good, and it does reinforce it.
Nerf guns, people. All right. Oh yeah, no Nerf guns. Oh my God, yeah. I played with Nerf guns as an adult. I played with Nerf guns as a kid. Those I don't know.
One of the things I did here, and this was more important for the number of kids that's in there, is if you ever go is buy a fire extinguisher, which I need to do myself. I need to buy a fire extinguisher. Start a small campfire, and then have your daughter use a fire extinguisher on it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. Me and her, I would like to take her camping more the next couple of years, more camping, and having and just in case the fire goes sideways on me, because fire by itself can be unpredictable, because you think you have a good, you dug out, you put rocks around it, or you have it in a fire pit, and shit happens.
Well, no. My real point is this much: is the last time you want to learn how to use a fire extinguisher is when there's an actual fire.
Oh God,
That's
yeah.
that's what I'm referring to, and this is what I mean. I like listening to what was his name from Thunder Ranch, Clint. Anyway, um, anyway, I was listening to him, and he was saying that was one of the things you should do, and then put a fire extinguisher under their bed, um, for the kids. Everyone talks about guns. He says, well, more kids die from fires than die from guns. Now, the problem that I have with it is that they confuse the ages. But yeah, that's right. You, you're just mad you can't give $2. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, fires is its own weird situation with my ex-wife when she was like 5 or 6 years old accidentally fell into a fire.
Ooh, wow. Uh,
And
well, my son's aunt, not that he ever met her, but when she was like 16, she died of smoke inhalation from a
oh
fire.
no.
Yeah, that's it, Clint Smith. Yep. Um, yeah,
I,
but I mean, those are
or even Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent is probably one of my favorite musicians. I will go see his concert any day of the week. His hunting ethics are unapproachable. I will listen to him talk about hunting and what it takes to be a good hunter. It's like, even if you're a bow hunter and you take down a deer or whatever, you don't, and it's not dead yet, the responsible thing to do is pull out your side piece and put the thing out of its misery, which makes sense to me. It makes a great deal of sense to me. And yeah, but hunters, to be a good hunter, you need to be rounded with rifles and bows. And I don't disagree with that whatsoever. Me and my ex-wife, she absolutely hates guns, will go round and round with us, because before my knees finally went out, I was actually thinking about getting into deer hunting, going out. And she's like, "What are you going to do if you tag a deer and it's not dead?" I'm like, "Well, I was thinking about buying a pistol." She's like, and that was World War III. But no,
so taking my son out to get trained when he was 7. No, this was about 6. This was almost 7 years ago. Anyway, I took him out after his mom shot him in the forehead um, with a BB gun by accident. Anyway, we were having that discussion. Anyway, I said this is a good time for him to learn firearm safety because he's been shot. Anyway, so he did that. He fired a few rounds. He's really sensitive to loud noises, but he fired it. He had a silencer on all the weapons he did. I paid an instructor just for one-on-one with him. I mean, I was sitting next to him, but right there, he did that. And I mean, he'll go shoot with me sometimes, or he'll go shoot with his mom, but that's about it. I mean, it's not, you know, that's not his real fun thing. He'd rather go be playing with electronics, and I'm okay with that. But he's not afraid of a gun, and he understands, he understands it. And then the other part
my
is
oldest
yeah.
my oldest son Laszlo um, works at Walmart, Indiana, and they got robbed at gunpoint maybe a couple months ago. I don't know exactly when. And he, I hear his mom coming out of his mouth from time to time, especially on pointed subjects, and guns was one of them for a long, long, long time. He won't even touch a Nerf gun. He won't play video games that use guns. He was anti whatever. Now he's like talking to his dad. He's like, "I want to get a gun." And I'm like, let's go
Well,
take him out shooting, beforehand, before he goes and buys one.
well, yeah. Before he buys one, the big thing is, this is good. It depends on where you grow up, but if you're gonna do that, it's like, hey, look, before you buy a gun, we're gonna go take a gun safety class, and that's the big thing. Do one-on-one, not in a big group, just one-on-one. I know that's to be a little expensive, but it's 120 to 150 bucks probably by now. It's worth it. You don't have to worry about it. It's good to hear it from someone else besides you talking about gun safety. They can ask questions back and forth. The person's very knowledgeable. They tend to fire nicer. They don't. How do I want to put this? They'll select the right weapons for him. They're, like I said, for my son, he fired 22 pistol, he fired 22 rifle. They both had silencers on them, and it was about as and okay, that's fine. And then after that, I bought him a gun when he was 8, a single shot. I think it was a Cricket, or no, it was a Savage. Anyway, that was it. That's all we had to do. Now he hasn't gone shooting with me in a few years, but we have it.
If I ever make it down to Texas, and I'm sure I will at some point, I got you down there, I got Bruce down there, or I got people I actually want to hang out with in person, go have a meal with. And, I would not be opposed to, hey, what do you want to do today, Connell? Okay, let's go to a range. I'm not opposed to it. It goes back to time and place. And I use the game room as my example, because what if the guy didn't have the safety on? It bounced weird.
Well, I mean, that's what we're talking about. Well, if you had the old Sig 320 before they did the fix where it hits the ground, accidental discharge, that there's a lot of crap like that. My father used to joke that more officers got shot by their own guns than by the enemy in the military. He said, because a lot of them are not. How do I want to put this? They're quasi trained, but they aren't actually combat arms where they're actually trained to shoot. And so they go to the range twice a year, if that. They're just trying to minimally qualify. There's no professionalism in it. And then they're contracting officers. And so they just carry a gun around, and you're like, but no, I mean, overall, yeah. And,
oh my God. Grandparents. Yeah, I get that. My grandpa Marshall passed away many years ago, and I love the man. He took me fishing. We went camping. He was there for me when I came back to the States and was having a difficult, just time of things. And his solution was, well, let's go camping, which is a wonderful solution. I recommend it to everybody. Let's go camping.
I'm going to mention this, Bo. It's not that expensive if you get 22. That's the problem is that everyone wants to go fire the bigger rounds, and all I went is no. You go fire the 22. That's plenty for fun. It gets your basic. And then the other part is not. I listen to a lot of gun guys out there, but go practice. Dry firing for a long time. Go practice dry firing, and then just take even when I went out for the range and I'd spend an hour, I might shoot 20 rounds because I cared about accuracy more than I cared about, the problem is that most people go out and they want to be like Rambo. Bam, 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 bam. Yeah, okay. You're going to go broke that way. And God forbid you have a 50 cal. As much as they talk about that, you might as well put a $10 bill down every time you shoot a 50 cal.
So going back to my grandpa, he passed away from emphysema and lung cancer. He worked at a factory. That was his job. He worked at, Caterpillar. He worked at Caterpillar in East Peoria for a long time, and smoking and breathing in all the fumes there just did him in. So it comes time to, unfortunately, to go clean out the house. And I get assigned to the bedroom. The bedroom. There's a Foot Locker in there. I'm 19, 18 years old. And, I get into his Foot Locker. He never served, but he had a Foot Locker.
Sure.
And there was a few items in there that are questionable. He had a couple old Playboys that I'm sure if they were in better circumstances, they would have been worth some money. He had... And I know I'm going to get this wrong. I do know he inherited a revolver from his grandfather, from his father, and so
wow,
forth.
That would have been really cool.
It was a Civil War piece.
Oh wow, yeah, that's even better. In fact, that isn't even covered by the firearms law.
Right. Well, one of my uncles came, took it, who is, former military himself, and he took it, which is fine. I'm not faulting him. But there was also, other things, and I say this joking around because I did do it, and it was absolutely horrible, and I should be ashamed of myself. He had a cloak with the
hood.
The hood. and it was red.
Oh God.
And I'm like, oh, this is too good. You know, my grandpa never came across to me to be anything near that nonsense.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, my aunt, my mom are in the other room, and my uncle. So I popped it on. I popped it on. You know that the move I did in Mark's game, the risky business.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
took my shoes off. I had my socks on, hardwood floors, which hardwood floors are amazing. I prefer them. And here comes an 18-year-old, maybe 19, I don't remember. 2001, I was 19. Yeah. I come sliding through the living room with the outfit on. Everybody's like, "Oh my God, where did he find that?" I'm like, "Grandpa's Foot Locker." My uncle's like, "Yep, that tracks." And I'm like,
Yeah, what, there's a lot of things in there. What's funny is even though we grew up in the South, we didn't have any of that. But I will have a good story about my grandfather when he passed away. They found a I don't know what to call it, a box of grenades.
oh no. Correct me if I'm wrong, but grenades don't exactly age well.
Yeah, that was the discussion of my father has some stories that he used to take things from what was it? He there's that there's like I Pro or whatever. Anyway, it's I Shoot Pro or something. It's like $99. Go practice with that with the laser in your actual weapon, and then when you're done with that, and then you can also practice with the blue gun for a holster. And then the other part is then go to the range, the last bit, and don't carry a lot of rounds. Just because that's probably the way to go. Anyway, sorry. But yeah, they had to call in the sheriff's department or the police and the explosive ordnance disposal. Yeah, yeah.
Needless to say, I was very forcefully asked to take off the outfit I was wearing, and I think it got burnt. I honestly, I don't exactly know what happened to it, but I know there was a bonfire of things getting burnt in the backyard. Paperwork that no one needs to,
Yeah.
Social security numbers, bank
Right.
accounts, stuff
Sure.
that yes, the grandpa has passed away, but that's still stuff needs to be disposed of. And I think it ended in there. I'm pretty sure it did. But yeah,
My whole thing on that is, especially going up around the military where we had every group around. At the end of the day, I said, look, I don't like it where I have to pick my friends based off on the way that they look. All right. I'm just too old for that. I want the friends and whoever are my friends. And if you're a dick, I don't care what race you are. I don't want you to hang out. And if you're a great guy, I'd rather you hang out with me, and I don't care what race you are. And that's why
oh yeah, I'm of very much the same opinion. I mean, the few times I've talked to EO Geek, I think he's a great guy, even though he's a Brit. But
most of the time, yeah. Well,
I got my own issues. I am still working through them.
I know. Well, yeah. But speaking of, well, anyway, but just like we talk about fashion, getting back to that is, I like wingtip shoes, that Cordovan color. I like that reddish color. I need to get myself a nice belt.
A good thick leather belt will serve you a long time.
I know. You need it. There's that. I like the inside monograms and stuff. That's one things that I know that, and I think this is, as much as people talk about 5e, I noticed that women tend to go out like to do the shopping aspect more than just the fighting aspect.
I know guys like to do just shopping expert. Oh, wait. We're in town? Yes. How much more are we planning on running? I don't know. Another about 20, 30 minutes. Can we shop?
Yeah. Well, and I don't mean shop for like the, hey, I'm going down, I'm going to go collect, the rope and everything else.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I want this for the clothes and this over here and that over here and this over here and this particular hat. I said, you know what? But I was okay with that. Anyone that's looked at, especially do fancy, look at how the Lands dressed. If you're familiar, they're ones that usually carried like the two-handed swords and stuff. Um, Look at them, man. They were like brightly colored and garish. You know what? I kind of miss seeing some of that. Everyone today dresses so bland.
From
Uh,
being from a historic point of view, I know everybody's favorite color, not everybody's favorite color, but a lot of people in the sport that I do like to wear black, which once again, not a problem. Black is not period. Black is still a fairly new color.
well, okay. So I read a book called, which was actually pretty interesting. Depending on how realistic you want to make your world, was called A Perfect Red, and it talks about the goal of making red. Um,
Crushing up
and
Beatles.
Well, and what it was the best color of red came from, and it still does today. Generally, it comes from these beetles,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
I don't
I
remember.
forget if it's red dye number 4 or something. There's a bunch of like if you, not, a lot of the red food coloring and things you get are made from beetles. Um, and the hardest one to get is red and purple. Those are the
Well,
two colors that are incredibly hard to get, or used to be. Nowadays they found ways of doing it so it's very cheap as far as.
purple. Oh God, it also really depends on what part of the world you were in. Purple was considered a royal color. Only royalty could wear purple. 10 to 1, only the royals could afford to wear purple.
Well,
Uh,
that was part of it. Was yeah, it was. Yeah, and that sometimes things that we don't do nowadays in our games. Well, even when they said bright red used to only be worn by certain groups, and when dyes came way down in price, a lot all of a sudden red became, oh well, those are the poor people doing it. They switch colors. It's interesting looking at it, but I I still love the, you know I'm not a huge. I still love looking at the red felt, and stuff of that sort, or the purple. There was a lot of dynamism out there. Now I look at people and go, eh. The only time,
well,
the only people that you nowadays see that really dress um, as if it was back in the day are pimps, apparently. You know?
there was that musical, Joseph. It's also from the Bible. Joseph's an amazing technicolored coat.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see all the colors. That's fine though. But I'm just going through the line of all the different colors that were into that cloak. That'd be, I mean, that's a king's ransom, just in dye. And well, what was it? I'm just reading somewhere that Native Americans did not know what blue was. They had no, I don't know how. See,
So,
that's the
so, so
point of me being.
here's. I know that they talk about this with Greeks. They call it the Wyandotte Sea. But anyone that's looked at Greece knows that they have the Greek blue everywhere. And so what I've heard, and I've heard different things. One is do you see the color? But the answer is you might call it a different color, or you might just blend it in. I always joked about it when my friends talking about white. She was talking about wedding dresses. I said it's white, and she said, "No, it's this." I, let's be honest. They knew what blue was. They saw it. There are blue jays. There are plenty of blue birds all over.
Right. It's an interesting concept that, I mean, sure, a lot of cultures don't have words for back in the day for certain things, or words that translated over to the all powerful English language, uh, which annoys the ever loving hell out of me. Not that things don't transfer over, but going into English as a whole. It's not the best language out there, it really isn't. It's a language that's most common around the world, but it's
I'm gonna hear a few things. One is, at least for the Chinese and a few of the Eastern countries, they like English because English is a very precise language. Um, we don't think of it as, but it really is a very precise language. Whereas they tend to go for concepts, ours tends to be very that. The other part is English has twice as many words as any other language out there.
That is true, and depends on what decade you're from or era. Words have different meanings. Like, for example, I was at the library in Missouri, and I was reading something, and I said, "Well, that's queer." It had nothing to do with the person's sexuality. Just it was weird. And the
Yeah.
guy jumps my ass like, "You can't say that word," as he's wearing a Nightmare Before Christmas shirt. And I just giggled and walked away. because they said queer in one of the songs, and I just thought it was, my hypocrisy only goes so far. Damn it.
Well, it's one of these things that though I've been looking at. I was just finishing up Elric. Yeah, I mean, navy blue in most cases I would call black. They're like, no, it's navy blue.
I can tell the difference between black and navy blue just by the great. There's a slight black is black, but navy blue to me has a. It's not
as black.
I don't know if I want to say it's charcoal gray because I know that is a real color, but it doesn't. I'll argue with people where somebody says, "Well, that's red." I'm like, "No, that's not red." How do you know?
Well, here's what it comes down to for me is there's a lot of bad black that's actually navy blue.
Colors are weird. I am not.
It's colors are colors. I have to admit though, and I need to read more of this stuff. But reading Dying Earth and reading all these others, John Carter of Mars, the efficiency of language that they have. Yeah, you're right, Bo. I heard someone get that. Yeah, he's right. I heard someone get fired for doing that one time. Got into a big, and I just went, "Oh, yeah." But there's a lot of factors in there, and people sometimes take offense that the old thing of, well, I'm disinterested. Disinterested just means that that you're neutral, not that you are not interested in it. But that's the problem of suffixes and prefixes, and people are missing things, and for that. But all right, Colin, I'm going to try getting some sleep because I'm going to be heading to work.
I appreciate you hanging out with me. Really quick, I want to say two things. I'm looking forward to this coming Sunday, talking about John Carter of Earth. I know it says John Carter of Mars, but he's from Earth. It's a cowboy version of He-Man. That's my line. I'm not really. And two, guess what I'm having for dinner tomorrow night?
Oh, what are you having, steak or?
I'm having surf and turf. I have a cowboy ribeye. I've never seen a cowboy ribeye before. So I was at my local butcher's and they had a cowboy ribeye. I'm like, what the hell is that? It's a cowboy
Didn't they just trim it off so it has the bone?
It's like a tomahawk steak, but smaller. I'm like, okay. And crawfish is on sale right now. I'm like, oh, I see some surf and turf in my.
So if you can take it, my suggestion is if you go now, are they already shelled out or are they whole crawfish?
They're whole.
Oh, okay.
You crack and the brains and you pitch it and you mix it. 10-1, I'll be eating it crawfish on Saturday's outing with Bruce.
Well, that's good. I love crawfish. I do. I like them better than shrimp. And you know what? Right now I have a steak cooking right up there, so I'll have that for breakfast with my bone marrow butter.
I gotta get into that. I gotta get past the rest of this month and the butcher shop. It's a good butcher shop. They're just expensive, and they get to be expensive. And they are now. They have a couple different things there I want to try, but they're now selling bone marrow. It's still in a bone. You still have to cook it and do everything with it. But I think I'm going to be rendering down some marrow this next coming month.
But bone marrow is so easy. It's like mine. And so I tell them I want like a certain number of bones. They cut them in half, and then I just season it, and then I put it in the oven, and you cook it like 350 or something. It only takes like 20 minutes. It comes out like a little spoon. You scoot, and then I put it in there, and then I put in butter into a blender. I just blend that all together along with some spicy, like seasoned butter or whatever you want to call it, compound butter.
Right.
I put that all in there, and then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll pour it into mason jars and just pull it out of there. And then I put the mason jar. I leave the cap off so it doesn't, of course, expand.
I grew up in a house where my grandma had a huge glass jar of lard, it being bacon grease, beef tallow, whatever. But you said you need to go.
Yep.
I want to thank you for joining me tonight, Bo,
Laura,
and everybody else.
Hungar.
Hungar, yeah,
If
Hungar.
Hungar's still around, I don't know.
Right. Everybody in chat at Crafty Gamer, thank you for hanging out with me for about an hour and change. We'll have to do this again soon. And maybe I can talk Bo and Victor and a few other people joining us. So it's just not us rambling back and forth as we normally do, which is, I'm not going to complain about that though either. Everybody, you have a good night. Sorry for the conversation. It was kind of heavy tonight. Didn't mean it to be that way, but it's a good conversation to have.
Have a good night, all.